The St. Louis Blues have their team, and, well, folks, it is a very good team.
Hey, this is Bryn Chen. Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, I am going to talk to you about the fact that we have our team for the upcoming 2025-26 season, and they are talented. But unfortunately for me, and I'm sure for you, if you're a Blues fan, there has been nonstop talk about these rumors that have circulated regarding Jordan Kyrou. I have seen a plethora of comments and tweets and articles that have no credibility. People who want to call themselves journalists, but yet they're posting articles with Kyrou and his girlfriend insinuating that he is not a locker room guy. That's not journalism. That is making up rumors, running with it, and trying to ruin someone's image. I think I've had it when it comes to other fan bases thinking that they know how we are here in St. Louis. For me, I have said this once and I will say it again. I'm an out-of-state Blues fan, but I am a Blues fan, period. And one thing about this fan base, one thing that I love about this fan base is that we don't create the drama. We don't create the rumors how teams like the Golden Knights do. You see that fan base. You see the Edmonton Oilers. And I'm not trying to come on here and bash other fan bases of other teams. But you notice that there is a tendency that whenever a rumor is circulating, it's all of these teams that have what I would like to call a toxic fan base. I am not trying to be negative, but I am ticked off, especially when I see a player with his significant other who honestly, in my opinion, it's inappropriate to post that. I do not care who the players are dating, who they're married to, what their family life is like. I am on this podcast to talk about how they play hockey, what I think they can bring to the team, and how they like to help out the community here in St. Louis. I saw this article, and I'm not going to even give credit to, in my opinion, the clickbait rage artist that created it, who made up a whole fabrication about how Jordan Kyrou isn't liked in the locker room and how nobody likes him. And they went back and they talked about the comments about Berube. And I addressed that in an episode kind of recently again. And I said there might be people annoyed with him that, hey, maybe you don't want him on the team. But nobody in St. Louis is saying, I hate Jordan Kyrou. That is not happening. We love our Blues. I mean, if you think about it, we really just have the Blues, the Cards, because they got rid of our football team. And I do not think we're getting a basketball team. So we really have, and I guess soccer, but the point is we are really attached to our hockey team. And when I see articles like that, bashing players, making up rumors from a Canadian's quote-unquote journalist, that bothers me. Now, if the Canadian journalists wanted to write about the rumors that were circulating and how NHL insiders like Chris Johnston, Frank and Pierre, all of these insiders were basically saying that the Canadians were very interested in Jordan Kyrou. Okay, write an article about how Kyrou would benefit your team. Do something like that. But it is inappropriate to post a photo as the cover photo of your article with a player and their significant other. And I get my photos from Imogen. They're all sourced. My company, we pay for it because we don't steal photos. You stole this photo off of this poor girl's social media, I'm assuming, because I do not see it on Imogen because it's an iPhone kind of picture. No credit, by the way, for the photo. Inappropriate to put that photo out there. Like, that ticks me off. And that is why, when it comes to other fan bases talking about the Blues, you lose credibility. You really do when I see things like that, because that doesn't just represent you. It represents the fan base as a whole, because that is the article that everyone is seeing inappropriately. And then I did some more research, right? Because again, I'm annoyed. I'm like, okay, who is this site? Who is this person, this journalist? And it seems like they have a tendency to do that. And I'm really thankful for the Drop Hockey Show, because they sent me the article to begin with today. And they said, this is infuriating. This is ridiculous. And I agree. I think whenever there is something like this circulating on the internet, it is a disgrace. It really is. And again, I never heard of this source. Apparently it's just it says providing NHL news, updates, whatever. But now I'm seeing another article. Canadiens management makes first key decision involving newcomer Zachary Bolduc. Like, from what I'm seeing about this this company, maybe, is that they were kind of obsessed with the Blues, because they wrote numerous articles today about Jordan Kyrou. 3 articles on Jordan Kyrou just today. Nick Suzuki just dropped an interesting hint about Jordan Kyrou possibly joining the Canadiens. Like, why is every single article about Jordan Kyrou joining the Canadiens? Like, it's ridiculous. But when you are trying to start problems with our players, and most importantly, our fan base, that's where I draw the line. I am not in St. Louis, right? I don't live in St. Louis. I wish I did. But my job is not in St. Louis. But I'm a Blues fan. And I have plenty of friends that are Blues fans that live where I live. And we've all been ticked off about this. This isn't something that I can just brush off, because what you're doing is damaging the reputation of Jordan Kyrou. What you are doing by putting his name in a bad light all the time, it just creates a toxic situation. And yes, am I getting mad right now? Absolutely, because I did not agree with what Jordan Kyrou said when Craig Berube left, and he apologized. He was brought to tears over what he did, because he knew that he messed up. He knew that he didn't do the right thing, and I don't think it was intentional by any means. I don't. But he is well liked in that locker room. And then you're going to say to me, how do you know that? You've only been in there a couple of times. Okay, well, if there was any problems in the locker room, you would notice how the players interact with him. They don't interact with him like they don't like him. They interact with him because they do like him. You see the chemistry that Kyrou and Dylan Holloway have. Like, you can't tell me that there is a problem in the locker room when you are a fan of the Canadiens, when you have never been inside that Blues locker room, when you have never spoken to any Blues players, nor have you ever watched every single Blues game in a season. Watch, like, you make up rumors about our players, insinuating that there is an issue. And I'm ticked off about it. And I'm going to be ticked off about it. I did not want this to be an episode that I did again today. I didn't. I really don't. I hate this. It's uncomfortable for me, because there's a part of me that just wants to say, if you don't like Jordan Kyrou, bleep you. But I'm not doing that. I am being mature, kind of. But you can want Kyrou to come to Montreal. You can. And I am not saying that you can't want that, but can you please do it while still being somewhat ethical? And then I saw a couple comments saying, Haley, aren't you a Blues insider? Because I was talking about the insiders making up clickbait. When it comes to another team that I cover for a job, yes, I would consider myself an insider. I'm at all the practices. I'm in the locker room almost every day. For the Blues, I'm lucky enough to where I get to do a podcast talking about my favorite NHL team, the team that I am a fan of for 5 days a week, every single day. I love it. I'm lucky enough to be able to go inside the locker room when they come to the city that I live in for work. I am lucky enough to where I'm able to attend Zoom pressers, a couple of the agents of players I communicate with. So I wouldn't say I'm a full Blues insider by any means, but I would say I'm well enough connected to know if there's any problems. And with some of the agents that I contact and I speak with, I can confirm that there is no problems in the locker room. And I didn't want to full on say that in yesterday's episode. I thought me just saying, hey, being in there a couple of times, I've experienced nothing but good things. But yeah, I can come out and say there is no problems in that locker room officially. And there's never been no problems with Jordan Kyrou. So I understand that Canadian fans want Jordan Kyrou. I don't blame you. He's a great player. But when it comes to making up rumors, chill out because you just look bad. It takes all of your credibility away. And as a journalist, I write for a living too. There's something called ethics in journalism. And have I put out stories ever that are opinionated? Absolutely. But I will say my opinion. I don't present a story in a way where it makes it look like this is a factual statement if it's not. So do better, do more research. And if you have any questions about writing or journalism, please let me know. My Twitter is Haley T. Simon. I am not here to bash on you, but at the same time, when I see baloney like that on the internet, yeah, I'm going to call it out. So again, if you want some journalism guidance, I'm more than happy to help you out. All right, I want to talk about the goodness of the team coming up. But first, Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also budgeting wealth. What was surprising for me was that I had all of these different apps and I wasn't just using one platform until I began using Monarch Money and I realized how much time I was truly wasting. Okay. Hate wasting time and Monarch takes that away. Plus, it is super easy to use. So please take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. When it comes to this upcoming season, I am a huge believer that the Blues have their team. I am. I think the Blues improved in every way. And I have to say, with Mayu coming in, that's going to improve the defense. And you know what? Give the kid a shot. Don't send him to the T-Birds. Just let him play here. Let Logan play. But I do want to address a couple of things. I was looking back actually at the playoffs when we were eliminated by the Winnipeg Jets. I know, what was I thinking? Well, you know what? I had some free time on my hands and it was a fun series up until it wasn't, but it was a very fun series for me. The Blues never lost at home, so a win is a win, right? Making the best of it. We weren't going to win the cup this past season. We all knew that. So I'm watching, and it hit me with Dylan Holloway being out. I am a believer that if Holloway was able to play, if he wasn't injured, the Blues would have won game 2. There was plenty of scoring opportunities. Obviously, the Blues couldn't connect to the net, but you have to keep in mind that one of your best players, one of your top 6 players, wasn't in due to injury. Obviously, Jimmy Snuggerud played fantastic, and I can't say enough good things about Snuggy. I am so excited to see what he continues to do. But I want you to actually think about this for a second. Do you think if all the players were healthy for the Blues, and I know the Jets had injuries, and I'm not dismissing that, I'm just asking a question. Everyone was healthy. Do you then think the Blues would have won that series? Do you think the Blues were a better team than the Jets? I'm going to say no. In terms of the Blues being the better team, they were not. The Jets have more talent. But with the injuries that the Jets had, right, and how Connor Hellebuck was playing in net, they weren't the same Jets that we saw in the regular season. So they were a beatable team. And that is what the Blues need to do throughout the entirety of the regular season. They need to play the way they did games 3, 4, and 6, and most of 7. That's how they need to play, because it does matter where you end up. Being wild card 1 versus wild card 2, it makes a difference. Now, do I think the Blues would have beat the Vegas Golden Knights? Absolutely not. Vegas is a scary team. Beatable team, but scary, especially now that they have Mitch Marner. Scary in the regular season. Postseason, maybe not so much. I'm joking. Not really. A bit of an overpay. Still going to stand by that. But the point is, I think when we look at some of the moves that we made this offseason, obviously no more Foxa. How do I feel about that? I mean, Fox's line was one of the best lines, in the back end of the season. So I can't say I'm too thrilled about it, but as an individual player, I don't think it's detrimental. Zach Bolduc, I'm still upset about it. And that's okay. But you have to also look at the positives, right? That you're going to have a healthy Holloway and a healthy Broberg. A part of me is actually really excited and a little bit nervous for Tyler Tucker, because it seems like with how things are going that they're going to expect him, and by they, I mean Doug Armstrong and management, that they're going to expect him to step up tremendously. That makes me a little bit nervous. I like Tucker, I do. But if you recall, a couple seasons ago, him and Scott Perunovich no longer with the Blues, by the way, they were just swapping places and going from the Thunderbirds to being called up to the Blues. It was just a mess. Obviously, the Blues got rid of Perunovich, and Tucker stayed on the team. And Tucker is a very physical player, a player that can bring a lot of energy and momentum. And that is one thing I will give him credit on, is that he always plays hard. But you might be wondering, why am I nervous? Why would I be nervous? Because I don't want him to fail. I don't. And I understand that's how we feel about a lot of our players on the team. We want them to succeed. But I have a soft spot for Tucker because I watch him play a lot with the Thunderbirds. And I know that he's been through it, right? I mean, I remember there was a point where fans of the Blues didn't think he should have stayed on the team and that they should have traded him. And can I say I blame them? No, because I understand, because there was a stretch of time where he wasn't playing good hockey. But at the same time, he does play his all. I just think that there is a part of me, a huge part of me, that does believe wholeheartedly that Tyler Tucker is going to be one of the breakout players this season. I do. And I think that my confidence in Tucker came from just his physicality standpoint and his work ethic. Do I think he gets too many penalty minutes? Absolutely. I think that he takes careless penalties. I don't want him in the penalty box. In the playoffs, that was an issue. However, he is still young enough, but old enough at the same time. It's like a funny age when you're in your mid-20s, right? Where you can change that narrative about you as a player. So for me, I am excited for him, but it does put pressure on Tyler Tucker, which is why, as somebody that wants to see him succeed, it makes me just a little bit nervous. And then, of course, we have our all-star on the team, Robert Thomas, projected to make Team Canada for the Olympics. Robert Thomas season. No, but I am the biggest Robert Thomas fan. I am. And he is a player that I'm always going to praise because there is nobody that works harder than Robert Thomas. Sure, you can make the argument for guys like a Binnington, a Parayko. I understand that. But there is a reason why Robert Thomas is the star of your team. When Robert Thomas was out, right, the ankle stuff, he was supposed to be back in 6 weeks and he came back in 4 weeks. Like, this is a player who works hard. And while I wasn't able to speak to Robert Thomas this past season due to his injury, I spoke to him the season prior. And he has such a winner mentality mindset. A mindset that makes me excited about the future of the Blues. This is the future captain of your team, by the way, in Robert Thomas. This is a player that is the future of the Blues. There still is a part of me that questions why he doesn't get the recognition nationally. I really don't understand it. If a player like Robert Thomas was on a team like the Bruins or the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Golden Knights, he would get recognition. But he doesn't. So when I saw his name on the projected Olympic roster, he was the last spot, by the way. I was very excited to see that he got at least the recognition. Now, do I think he's going to be a fourth line center? Most likely, just because they're going to put Crosby probably like on the second or third, like whatever. Honestly, at the end of the day, the disrespect is real. I think Robert Thomas should be on the second line center. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I think there is no other player on the Blues like Robert Thomas and the skill set that he has. This past season, one of the things that I said I wanted Robert Thomas to do was be a little bit more selfish when it comes to the puck. He's always passing and making great plays, but I wanted him to take the shots on net, and he did. So there was a lot of improvement when it came to him actually being the one to rip the puck in the net. Overall, the Blues have so much talent, and there is a bigger conversation that we need to talk about. We have our first full season under Coach Jim Montgomery. Something that I feel like we haven't talked about enough, because the conversation really has been about the rumors. It's been about a whole bunch of baloney. But when you think about the fact that the Blues are going to have their first full season under a new head coach who is the epitome of St. Louis Blues hockey, well, good things are going to happen. I will be going on vacation back to West Virginia for a couple of days, so you may not see me. However, I will try my best to chime in, but I will be having a new episode 100% on Monday. But again, you will be seeing clips throughout the weekend. So if you don't see any full videos, I promise I'll be back. I'll just be visiting back my old neck of the woods. I will talk to you all soon. And like always, let's go Blues.